Hello students, welcome to the online session. If you have been following my presentations, you know that in the previous presentation we have spoken about globalization and its implications for the world as well as India. As I told you before as well, this series of presentations, 4 to be very precise, will be helpful for the students of CBSE Class X. In this second presentation, we are going to talk about foreign trade and its implications for the world as well as India and some other relevant topics. As I told you before as well, at the end of the presentation, if you have any queries, any question, you can feel free to ask me those questions in the comment section below. I will be answering as many queries as possible. And if you are already a student of our institute, you have the opportunity of asking those questions personally to me. So on that note, let's begin with the second presentation, which would focus on foreign trade and its implications for the world and India. So on that note, let's begin with our online session. As you can see over here that we are talking about globalization and the Indian economy. This is the name of the chapter. CBSE students of class 10 would know that this is the 4th chapter from their textbook. And in this chapter can be subdivided into many parts. One part was covered in the first presentation, which spoke about globalization and its implications for the world as well as India. In this presentation, we are going to talk about foreign trade and its impact. But before moving on, how much do we know about foreign trade? What exactly do we mean by foreign trade? That needs to be understood. So, in the very beginning, we will try to understand what foreign trade is all about. So, moving on to the next slide, we will see. We would first go through a small, quick recap of what we have learned so far. We have seen what is globalization. Now we have a precise idea about what globalization is all about. Then we know what are the implications for the world and for India. What are the implications of globalization for the world and India? Now, what are the various factors that has helped in the growth of globalization? We have also seen the advantages and disadvantages of globalization, whether it's good or whether it's bad for the world. We have seen what is an MNC, a multinational corporation that is. And we have idea about what are the various features of a multinational corporation. For this to be very clear about these topics, you have to go through the first presentation which I have given. Now moving on to the next slide, we will get a proper idea about what foreign trade is all about. What is foreign trade? Foreign trade is the trade between the different countries of the world. It is also called the international trade, external trade or inter-regional trade. Now, what is foreign trade? Foreign trade, as the name suggests, is simply a trade between the different countries of the world. It is take for example the trade happening between the United States and India. India is exporting something to the United States. United States is exporting some other products to India. Where the interchange of goods and services is taking place between two different countries, when it's moving beyond the geographical boundary of a particular country, it is generally referred to as foreign trade. Foreign trade is also referred to as international trade. It can also be called as external trade, and it can also be regarded as inter-regional trade. Now, how does foreign trade take place? Foreign trade takes place through import, export and export. Now, import is one part of foreign trade. You import something from a foreign country, you export something to a foreign country. So, these are the two basic things with the help of which foreign trade takes place. Now, through this slide, you are given a proper idea about what foreign trade is all about. Now moving on to the next slide. Now, is foreign trade completely a new thing for the world? Over here you will see the history of foreign trade. Where it began, how it developed and how it reached where it is now. You can see that the concept of foreign trade is not new to the world. It is not something that which has developed overnight. It is a very old concept. There were various trade routes connecting India and South Asia to the markets both in East and West, and extensive trade took place along these routes. From the very beginning, there were various trade routes open through the sea. There were various sea routes, to be very precise. Those routes connected India and South Asia to the markets in the East and the West as well. And by using these trade routes, huge amount of trade used to take place. So you can see that from the historic times, trade was there. There were trade routes through which trade was taking place. So it cannot be said to be a new concept. Now, it was a trading interest which attracted various trading companies such as East India Company to India. As you have seen in the case of globalization, the concept was there from the very beginning, but nowadays it has undergone a huge amount of change. The same thing is with foreign trade. By the middle of the 20th century, by the end of the 20th century, many Western companies, they saw that there is a huge market which was there to be exploited in the colonial countries. And it is because of this interest, companies such as the East India Company, which was primarily a trading company, opened up its shop in India. And these are the foreign trade interests, the trading interests, which motivated these companies to come into our country. So over here you can see that foreign trade is a very old concept. It's not a new concept. It was there from the very beginning. Yes, it has undergone a huge amount of change in the modern era, but the basic concept was there. Now moving on to the next slide. Has foreign trade benefited the world? Has foreign trade been very helpful for the growth of the world, for the development of the world? You can understand that by looking at the advantages of foreign trade. What are the advantages? Foreign trade creates an opportunity for the producers to reach beyond the domestic markets, that is markets of their own countries. Now foreign trade means that trading with some other country which is beyond the geographical boundary of your own country. So obviously you can understand that it facilitates the producer to reach beyond the geographical boundary of that country, to widen the market which is not limited within the geographical boundary of the country. It helps the producer to widen its market for the product. So the producer nowadays is not limited. They are not concentrating only on the domestic market. They are thinking about the global market, or market which is beyond the geographical boundary of that particular country. Now second point, for the buyers, import of goods produced in another country is one way of expanding the choice of goods beyond what is domestically produced. Previously, what used to happen? The choices for the consumers were limited to only the domestic products which were produced within the geographical boundary of that country. But now, because of the import of foreign products, the choice has widened. Now we have n number of choices to choose from. We have too many choices in front of us. We can choose the best product which satisfies our need, and then purchase it according to our need. So this is another advantage of foreign trade. So foreign trade overall has been helpful for the world. Now moving on to the next slide. Foreign trade and the integration of market. How has foreign trade helped to bring the different markets of the world, the markets in different countries which were scattered around the world, to bring it under one umbrella and make it as a global market? What I mean to say is that foreign trade has helped to bring the world closer, the markets of the world closer, and the markets, because of foreign trade, are becoming more and more interconnected and dependent on one another. Now foreign trade helps in the integration of markets in the following ways. It facilitates the movement of goods and services between the countries. Foreign trade facilitates the movement of goods and services between the countries. This part is pretty simple. It helps in the movement of goods from one country to another country. It also facilitates the movement of people It also facilitates the movement of people, ideas and technology beyond boundaries. As you can understand that the foreign trade also facilitates the movement of people. How? Take the example of maybe Infosys. Infosys is doing business with an American company. It has to set up certain infrastructure for the American company. For setting that infrastructure up, they need to train the local employees, the local American employees. For that, they have to send a trained professional from India to America. So as you can see over here, that an Indian is going to America to train the Americans. So the exchange of people is taking place. Ideas. When the Indian employee is going from India to America, he is going to America with certain basic ideas, which he would try to impart or try to educate the Americans with. So it is also resulting in the exchange of ideas and technology. The Indian company has certain technologies which is very specific to that company only. When that employee or when that company is doing business with an American company, they are transferring the technological know-how to that company. So the exchange of technology is also taking place. Now, it provides buyers with more choice of goods. As I have told in the previous slide, foreign trade often enables the consumers or often provides the consumers with a lot of choices. Because more and more foreign products are coming into the domestic market. So along with the domestic products, the foreign products widens the choice of the consumers. And the last point, due to increased competition between the producers, buyers get better quality of goods and services at lower prices. So what is happening over here? This is also discussed many times before. As the competition between the companies are increasing and the number of products in the market is increasing, the buyers are getting more choices, and the companies, because in order to overcome the competition, they are forced to provide better quality products to the consumers at a very affordable price. So this is how foreign trade has brought the world market together. This is how it has helped in the integration of the world market. Now moving on to the next slide. Why is foreign trade so important? Why are we studying about foreign trade? Why are we discussing foreign trade? What is the importance? The role of foreign trade in globalization process. Globalization is not possible without the growth of foreign trade. Why am I saying so? You can see over here, since historic times, foreign trade has been the main channel for connecting countries. For example, the Silk Route, the famous Silk Route that connects India and South Asia to the markets in the East and West. Now, since the historic times, trade was there. Maybe it was not so well developed as it is now, but the concept of trade, the concept of exchange of products between different countries or different empires was there. The famous Silk Route is a proof of that. It helped to connect India and South Asia to the markets in the East and West. So as you can see, foreign trade is a very old concept. Foreign trade creates an opportunity for the producers to reach beyond the domestic market. They can sell their produce not only in the domestic market but can also compete in market of the other foreign countries. Now foreign trade, as I have told before, foreign trade enables a producer to sell his products in a wide range of foreign markets, which allows the producers to maximize his profit by selling the same product in different markets. So it allows the producers to reach beyond the domestic market, the market which is limited with the geographical boundary of the country. It allows the producers to go beyond that. For the buyers, import of goods produced in another country provided opportunity to extend their choice beyond what is domestically produced. And from the buyer's perspective, this same point is discussed over and over again. From the buyer's perspective, it widens the choice of the buyer. So from these 3 importance, you can see that foreign trade is absolutely necessary for the process of globalization to exist. Now, this is why we say that foreign trade is so important for the world, because globalization wouldn't have been possible without the existence of foreign trade. Now moving on to the next slide. Now over here we need to understand few important terms which would help us in understanding the rest of the presentation. Two terms are very important. One is trade barrier and one is liberalization. What is trade barrier? Trade barriers are restrictions imposed on the import and export of goods. Now, in the previous days, most of the countries, they wanted to protect their domestic market, their domestic producers. That's why they impose certain sanctions, certain limitations on the export or import of foreign products. Basically import of foreign products. So that their domestic producers have the opportunity of exploiting the domestic market at the full extent possible and gain out of it. These laws which limited the foreign companies to which prevented the foreign companies from accessing the domestic market is known as trade barrier. It provides protection to domestic producers from foreign competition. This is one of the reasons why trade barriers were imposed by the government previously. Their main motto was to protect the domestic producers from the competition they would face if the foreign companies are allowed to enter the domestic market. And the last point, trade barriers are often seen as a hurdle in the path of globalization or foreign trade. Just imagine if a country like India imposes trade barriers, then it would become very difficult for the foreign companies to access our market. That would prohibit the growth of globalization in this country. Now moving on to the next slide. In this slide, we are going to talk about liberalization. What is liberalization? Previously, in the previous slide, we have studied about trade barrier. In this slide, we will understand the term liberalization. Now, it refers to the removal of various trade restrictions or barriers imposed by the earlier government. Now, liberalization is just the removal of the trade barriers that were imposed by the governments, so that they can help in the process of globalization, so that the foreign countries can move into the domestic market more easily. So liberalization is nothing but the opening up of the market by removing the trade barriers to facilitate the growth of globalization. Now, it is generally carried out to facilitate foreign trade in a country. Why is liberalization carried out? It is carried out to facilitate foreign trade and ultimately the growth of globalization in that particular country. Now, moving on to the next slide. Now, the Indian scenario. Till now we have studied about what is globalization, what is foreign trade, why foreign trade is so important, how foreign trade has impacted the world. But now we will focus on what is happening in India, the Indian scenario. India's economic policies that affected foreign trade can be classified into two categories. How India has approached the growth of foreign trade, that economic policy can be categorized under two categories. First, the economic policy of 1991, the economic policy before 1991, and the new economic policy of 1991. Two categories, economic policy before 1991 and the new economic policy of 1991. Now, first, the economic policy before 1991. Now, after independence, the government of India had put barriers on foreign trade and foreign investment to protect the domestic producers from foreign competition, as they were just developing during the 1950s and the 1960s. Now, just after independence, the government of India realized that our industries, our domestic industries are that they can compete with the foreign products. So they decided to help the domestic producers and give them time to develop themselves. In order to do that, they imposed certain restrictions, which stopped the foreign producers from entering the Indian market. As a result, the Indian producers could exploit the complete Indian market without facing any competition from the foreign products. Second, at that time, India allowed only import of essential items such as machineries, fertilizers, petroleum, etc. It is not that India stopped importing products from the foreign market totally. Government of India only allowed the import of essential items, which were not so abundantly found inside our country, such as machineries, because without the machineries even the domestic producers cannot work. The fertilizers, as you know, India is largely an agricultural country, so they need fertilizers, and petroleum. Petroleum reserve is not so high in India, so we still have to depend on the foreign market for that. So, barring these few essential items, the Indian government put restrictions on the import of other products, in order to allow the domestic producers to grow and reach such a stage where they can actually compete with the foreign producers. Till then, the Indian government decided to stop the entry or put barriers in the path of entry of the foreign producers into India. Now, this is the economic policy before 1991. But on 1991, the policy went through a drastic change. Why did that happen? New economic policy of 1991. Around 1991, it was felt that the Indian producers must compete with producers around the globe so that they can improve their performance and quality of goods and services. Now, till 1991, government gave opportunity for the domestic producers to grow. They allowed the domestic producers to improve themselves. So during 1991, the government felt that enough time has been given to the domestic producers. So for the national benefit, India must now open up its market for the foreign products, because that would allow the government to earn more revenue and also provide the consumers with more superior quality products. So they decided to remove the trade barriers. Besides, that's why the government of India in 1991 made some major changes in the trade policy, which helped in opening up the Indian market for the world. So, in 1991, the government of India decided to bring some reforms which would remove the trade barriers and open up the Indian market for the world. The decision or reforms were supported by organizations such as World Trade Organization. We will study about the World Trade Organizations in the later half of this presentation, but over here you should know that their decision of bringing in some reforms and opening up the Indian economy for the world was supported by many international organizations, including the World Trade Organization. Now moving on to the next slide. Now, why did India adopt the liberalization process? What was the need of adopting that? Adopting this liberalization process and removing the trade barriers. Now, the reform measures of 1991 were adopted due to several factors. There were several reasons behind that. It was not a single reason. It was a combination of different reasons. Firstly, during the period of 1990-1991, India was faced by an economic crisis, which allowed international organizations such as WTO, that is World Trade Organization, to force the Indian government to remove the trade barriers. Now, firstly, during the period of 1990 to 1991, India was faced by a balance of payment crisis. So India felt the need for getting some money from international organizations, which provided opportunity to international organizations such as WTO to force the Indian government to remove the market to the Indian producers to improve themselves. Now they should compete with the foreign companies and they improve their quality. So they decided to open up the Indian market for the foreign companies. Now moving on to the next slide. In this slide we will study about some international organizations which are responsible for controlling the world trade, the foreign trade. Now one such important organization or the most important organization which is responsible for controlling or regulate foreign trade across the globe is the World Trade Organization or the WTO. The World Trade Organization or WTO is an international organization that establishes rules regarding international trade and aims to promote international trade by encouraging countries to remove trade barriers. Now, the World Trade Organization is an organization that has been established with the aim of promoting international trade. And it also tries to promote international trade by encouraging new countries or new participatory countries to remove trade barriers and allow foreign companies to move into their domestic market. Basically, their main aim is to promote foreign trade and thus in the process help in the growth of globalization. Now as of July 2016, the World Trade Organization has 164 member countries. This gives you a precise idea about how big this organization is, how widespread its influence is. So basically, if I have to say a line about World Trade Organization, I can say that World Trade Organization is an organization which is responsible for the growth of foreign trade across the globe. They are the body which controls the foreign trade activities across the globe. Now moving on to the next slide. Now what are the functions of World Trade Organization? Why has it been set up? What are they trying to achieve? World Trade Organization deals with the regulation of trade between participating countries. They make sure that the foreign trade is carried out on fair terms. Nobody is monopolizing the market. Nobody has a monopoly over the market. They want to ensure that by setting up certain rules and regulations which ultimately controls the foreign trade activities across the globe. World Trade Organization provides a platform for negotiations and settling disputes. It might arise that two countries can have certain disputes regarding their foreign trade activities. World Trade Organization provides them with a platform where they can discuss their issues and settle them on a negotiable term, a term which is acceptable to both the parties. It also acts as a center for economic research and analysis. They have a center, the World Trade Organization acts as a center where research can be carried on how to improve the trading activities across the globe. They provide a platform for that. It is an organization that intends to supervise and liberalize international trade. They want to bring in more and more participatory nations under their umbrella, so that the foreign trade prospers across the globe. It oversees the implementation and administration and operations of the covered agreements. There are certain agreements which have been signed between all the participatory nations, so that a common rule can be developed. The World Trade Organization ensures that those rules and regulations are followed by all the participatory nations. So these are basically the functions of the World Trade Organization. How it controls the international trade, how it controls the foreign trade, and how it helps in the growth of globalization by helping the countries to liberalize themselves, that means removing trade barriers and allowing foreign trade to grow. So that would be all for this slide. this part of the presentation. If you have any queries regarding this presentation, please, as I told you before, feel free to ask those questions in the comment section, and I will try my best to answer all the questions. So, if you go through this presentation and the presentation given before this, you will have a fair idea about what globalization is and what foreign trade is all about. In the next presentation, we will be talking about the multinational companies, how they are growing across the world, and what the countries are doing to promote the multinational companies. Thank you very much.